All right, so I thought I'd make a quick video for you because your question was a little bit more involved than just answering a quick email. So the first question you asked is, what are the forms of your quadratic equation? So there's three basic forms of your quadratic equation. There's standard form, which would be the y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. In your standard form, it doesn't tell you all that much except that you know that c is going to be your y-intercept. The vertex form, which is y equals ax minus h squared plus k, will tell you the vertex, which would be hk. And remember, it's always the opposite sign next to the x. So if it was x minus 3 squared plus 5, the minus 3 would actually mean that your vertex is a positive 3, 5. So that hk would give you your vertex or your shift from the origin. And your intercept form, which is y equals ax minus p times x minus q, will tell you that p, q are your two x-intercepts, so where the graph crosses the x-axis. So those are your three forms of a quadratic equation. Now, the methods to solve those quadratic equations depend on what you are given. So, for instance, the first thing I would always try is to solve by factoring. Now, you could solve it by factoring. For instance, if it's in standard form, that's generally where we would look to see if I could solve it by factoring. You could solve it by square rooting. So if there is no middle term, so for instance, when you are in standard form, if it has no linear term, for instance, this bx term, then you could solve it by factoring. For instance, if you had, well, I shouldn't say y. If I had 0 equals 3x squared plus 5, this would be a great one to solve by square rooting because I could simply subtract the 5, divide by 3, and then take the square root of both sides. But if I had this middle term, a bx term, then I cannot solve it by square rooting. So factoring and solving by square rooting would always be my first two choices to try. If none of those work, then I would solve by using the quadratic formula or completing the square. They're really kind of the same thing. I usually go to quadratic formula. I don't particularly like using the completing the square, but that's really personal preference. And then, of course, if you're allowed to use your calculator, you could always solve by graphing and find out where does the graph cross the x-axis to solve it that way. So the questions are really two separate questions. One would be standard form, and one would be how to solve the quadratic equation. I mean, what are the forms of a quadratic equation and how to solve them. If you need more details on any of this, please let me know, and I'd be happy to give you more details.